Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Strategic Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Golding. I'm joined today by my special guest, Hoang Lam, man of many hats, CMM Financial, Storm Check, the Defining Moments Podcast, and more. Let's talk to Hoang today.
Welcome to the Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast, featuring expert insights, interviews with thought leaders, and business plan triage. Hosted by Kyle Golding, award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and Chief Strategic Idealist for the Golding Group.
I appreciate it. Hey, Kyle, thank you for having me on. Appreciate that.
Good to see you, sir, on the show. I'm excited about this. We work on a lot of different things together.
Yeah.
You record your podcast here in the studio. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of things together. We're always talking about different things. You just had a career change.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that first, but then let's talk about your side business, Storm Check, and what you're doing for veterans and that pursuit. And then we'll talk a little bit about podcasting too, because you have a great podcast. I've been on the podcast. So, there are good guests, and then there are people like me on the podcast, regular ass folks like me as well. So let's talk about this career change that just happened. You transitioned out of oil and gas, and now you're in the financial services area. So tell us about CMM Financial, what it is they do and what you do there.
Yes, so I appreciate the question. And a lot of my mindset has come from just honestly surrounding myself with awesome human beings.
That makes sense.
And I'm not saying this because I'm here, but your podcast is awesome because Saturday Morning Hustle that's in my wheelhouse. And I wake up and I love listening to that.
You're a hustler, you're a grinder. Both you and your wife are hustlers.
Yeah, Margie's awesome. And so the transition, I was in oil and gas at Chesapeake Energy for about 16 years, 8 months.
Okay.
And mutually left the company. And then I became an investor in CMM Financial Services.
Right.
And Josh and Scotty were talking to me about, hey, why don't you become the CEO?
That makes sense.
And so now I am the CEO of CMM Financial Services. We do tax prep, bookkeeping, payroll. We want to get into the community and help educate our community. And don't be afraid of taxes or accountants or the IRS. Let us help you.
They can become assets, right? This is all something that you should be using for your business benefit, not something you're afraid of in your business.
That's exactly right. So how can we help you grow your financial portfolio? Small business domination. Go just dominate your life. Go dominate your finances.
So is that the main audience for CMM Financial, small businesses?
Small businesses, individuals. You don't have to have an S-corporate LLC if you're wanting some personal education on your finances. Right. Come on in. I mean, it's not exclusive of anyone.
So obviously everyone knows right now we have a lot of inflation. There's a lot of costs going up. There's a lot of concern about our personal and business finances, right? It costs more to do these things. So anytime you can find a way to save some money or maybe even make a little bit of money by doing your books a little bit different and filing your taxes in a better way, right? Those are always good, smart things to do. And if you have a little bit of money, if you're going to invest it somewhere, you want to be smart about that as well, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we talk about how important it is for bookkeeping, right? Because that's the foundation. Your past 12 months is so important to the next 12 months.
Right.
What kind of constraints are you looking at personally? You got a kid in college, or you got a kid that you're going to send to college in 18 years. So what do you want to do? How are you going to afford that, right? So that's where we come in. We can help you think about different situations with our senior tax accountants. They're amazing. Our bookkeepers are awesome. Our payroll specialists are awesome.
I tell people all the time when they say, I'm going to start a business, I tell them, first thing you got to have your LLC, right? You can't be a real business until you filed your paperwork with the state, the LLC, then you get your EIN, and now the IRS knows that you're a real business. So now you're real on paper. But no matter what it is you do, if it's B2B, B2C, if you're manufacturing, if you're consulting, if it's a virtual business, you need an attorney and a tax professional of an accountant, a CPA, a bookkeeper, someone to help you on those things, because if you get backwards, upside down on the wrong side of the law or the IRS or even your bank and getting upside down in your credit, maybe, having to borrow and pay interest, etc., you can kill a small business before it ever even starts.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah. Our tax accountants, that's where we help advise you on your personal situation, your financial situation. And we can also help guide you if you're kind of worried about, am I doing this correctly with opening up an LLC? We will help guide you in that process as well.
And a lot of small business owners, what people call mom and pop, right? Small, maybe family business, maybe the husband and wife work in it, or maybe the husband and one of the kids, or anything like that. And then it becomes complicated because personal and business finances can get intertwined and you can get yourself in trouble, right? So what are some of your tips for people who own small businesses to avoid any of those issues of their personal and their business banking getting convoluted together and creating a tax or legal issue for them?
No, I love that. That's a great question. And personally, it's bookkeeping. Hire a great bookkeeper, because that bookkeeper is going to reconcile and keep you out of trouble from your personal and your business finances, and they will hold you accountable.
Accountability is a good thing.
Yes, for your transactions. If they see you using your personal debit card to buy this for your business or vice versa, they're going to ask you questions on why. They're going to educate you, because number one, it's all about the education. They're not going to scold you, but they will educate you because they want to keep you out of trouble. And so then that's where you have a accountant that comes in, and we can consult you throughout the whole entire year. Or where are you at with your finances? Do you have to spend, or do you need to limit your spending?
Right. There's nothing worse than spending $1 too much or making $1 too much and getting bumped up a tax bracket or having a penalty or anything like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you think about all these little services, your bookkeepers can cost $300 to $400 a month. Every time you go in for a consultation, it's $150 an hour that you're getting charged, and your payroll, and then what about maybe tax strategy, things like that, and what does it cost to do my personal taxes at the end of the year, and how about my business? Well, all those add up over time. So what we've decided to do is we created a small business domination package where that's all inclusive. And you get to we will consult you throughout the year on your taxes. We'll do your bookkeeping. We'll help manage your payroll. And then we'll help consult you. And not only that, we will help build your cash flow model out. Because now we're doing your books, so you know it's going to be accurate as long as the data that you're giving us is accurate.
Yeah, you can't lie to your bookkeeper.
Right.
That's the kiss of death for any business.
That's exactly right. And then you get to access our staff. You get to talk to the bookkeeper, talk to the payroll specialist, talk to the tax accountant, talk to the CEO, talk to the owners.
Right.
I mean, that's all inclusive.
I don't know if you want to talk to the CEO. He's kind of new there. So you own a side business, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is your first time as a CEO, right?
Yes.
So what's this been like to take on that role, and at transitioning out of oil and gas and a traditional, going to work model to now taking on these responsibilities in financial field and having a big shift in your career like this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a question that I actually have thought about a few times, just sitting there thinking about the transition coming from oil and gas into a financial field, because I love finance. That's my background anyways. But the whole mindset of, what more can I do? How can I challenge myself with doing something I've never done before?
Okay, I like that.
And what's that outcome going to be?
Right.
And how's it feel?
Right.
Because if you can feel that, and you get the passion for it,
then you're motivated.
Right. And I'll be honest, the staff that has stayed has been amazing. So our senior tax accountant, and I call this, his title is the administrative assistant, but I call him the administration. Because he is the administrator. He not just answers phone calls, but he divvies up the work. He knows the systems. This is the man that knows the stuff.
Yeah, right.
And we have a couple other senior tax accountants that are just amazing. And then we have bookkeepers that have been really amazing too. So just the mindset of, what more can I do? How can we as a team get better? Because it's not just one person. Always a team sport.
So how did you personally, in your own head, and I'm sure at some point you were consulting with the people closest to you in life, you thought to yourself, I think it's time to leave this very secure, very good job that a lot of people would like to have and do something very different. You talked about the challenge, but how did you work through in your head that you could do this and then you should do this. And at some point had to have the conversation with the people in your life about the fact that you are wanting to do it and then eventually pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's a bunch of good questions. So
Because it can be scary.
it was very scary. So Josh Walker and Scotty Bryan are the owners of CMM Financial Services, and I've known both of them for quite a while too. Josh called me up one night last summer and asked me if I knew an accountant. I was like, I don't know, my own. I have one. He's like, well, I just need someone that can run a business. And 2 weeks later, he called again. He's like, hey, we need to talk. So he comes over and we go for a ride in his car, and he talks about, hey, I really think you should think about becoming CEO of this.
Okay. So you had an offer come to you.
Had an offer come to me. We didn't talk about money because he just threw that, hey, we think you should do this.
Right.
So I talked to my wife, Margie, and I presented her the situation, and Margie's like, that's you. You should definitely do this. And to your point earlier, yeah, I had a great job, pays well, cush, easy, 8 to 5, in and out, no worries. And now I'm a CEO, and I've got to make sure our staff is good, our work's good, our clients, number one, are taken care of in a timely manner.
Right.
We're going to make payroll.
You're taking on a huge amount of responsibility, a huge amount of risk, and changing fields at the same time.
Absolutely.
There's a little bit of learning curve there.
Yeah.
But you took that challenge on.
I took that challenge on, and I'll be honest with you, my wife and I were working at a Crunch Time Fitness in Norman one morning. It's like 4 weeks into this new gig, and I'm sitting there throwing up weights, and all of a sudden I just sit up on the bench, and I'm almost in tears because they're like, man, Margie, I don't know. I don't know if this is right.
Mm.
And she's like, this is 100% right.
Boy, there's nothing better than a supportive partner.
Yeah. She's like, Josh and Scotty wouldn't have asked you if they didn't believe in you.
Right.
And Josh told me one important thing. He's like, just be you, bro.
There you go.
That's what he told me.
Okay.
He's like, just be you, bro.
How can you go wrong?
And I'm trying to think, what does that mean? Like, how do I be me? I'm just me. Like,
You just are, right?
What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I think how I think of when if I were to tell you just be you, I would follow that up with saying, don't overthink it.
Mm.
When you said you were working out, and you thought, man, maybe I can't do this, right? You were probably overthinking it. Everyone else involved believed in you, and you were challenging your own belief system yourself, as opposed to just going with it.
Yeah. I think you're right, Kyle.
So
you're right.
risk and reward, right? You had to take a risk in order to get a reward. You've got this great role with CMM Financial now. You also have a side business. You have a side hustle, a side business, Storm Check.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone in Oklahoma, you know how valuable our storm shelters are. You also know a good chunk of the year you don't use them, right?
Yeah.
So in between, you need someone like Storm Check to make sure you're on the up and up, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like a simple enough idea, making sure that people's storm shelters are prepared for storm season. Mm-hmm. But there's another component to Storm Check about who you employ. Let's talk about that. Tell me how that came about and how and why it's important to you.
Yeah. So my parents fled communist Vietnam in the mid-'70s, and they were on a fishing boat for 30-something days, right? And they finally got rescued by the United States military. And I don't want to tear up, but they rescued
you made me tear up when I was a guest on your podcast, so maybe I'm going to have to try to pull one of these out of you.
Yeah, so the military rescued my parents onto the ship, and my parents landed in a refugee camp in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
Right.
Got sponsored by 3 couples here in Guthrie, Oklahoma, actually. And so the military has been near and dear to my heart. As when you go and see the American flag, the red, white, and blue with the stars, you're like, now you have to appreciate, and you live in the greatest country in the world where you have the most unique opportunity to be so awesome and amazing.
Right. Freedom.
Exactly. Freedom.
Your parents were willing to take that risk, a treacherous risk.
Right.
Like literally they could have perished on that journey, in order to leave communism and embrace freedom.
Yeah.
They did. You're born in Edmond, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're first generation American for your family,
Mhm.
and you have this appreciation for the military. So now you have made it a focus of Storm Check to
Right.
hire and employ veterans.
Absolutely, yeah. And this started in 2020. It was in May. I was riding down the country road with a good friend of mine named Jeff Parker. He's a cattleman rancher here in Harrow, Oklahoma. And he asked me, he's like, when you see these cows, what do you think? I said, food,
Steak?
steaks, yeah, money, opportunity.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, storm shelters. Storm shelters.
The cows made you think of storm shelters?
They did, because I thought of opportunity. How can I make money?
I like that you found the nugget
Yeah.
in the conversation.
How can I make money? But more importantly, how can I make an impact in my community?
Okay.
And I have friends that are veterans that have served, are currently serving.
Right.
It's like, I need to find a way to employ some of my friends. And so stormcheck.team.
There you go.
That's how I was born, is what more can I do in a great country that allows me this opportunity?
There you go. So, CEO of a financial services company, owner of a small business,
Yeah.
employing veterans, and a podcaster, a prolific podcaster who's had the governor, the lieutenant governor, senators, congress people, major leaders, bankers, and even myself on your podcast.
Absolutely.
Again, you're not necessarily a natural podcaster when you decided to, before you did the first one, I think we should do a podcast. What made you decide that that was something you wanted to do in your life?
Yeah. Prior to that, I was coaching boys competitive soccer for 15 years. And after each practice, I would ask these young men, like, what did you get out of it? What did you enjoy about it? What did you not like about it? And it developed into this like stepping stone into life. So I use soccer, competitive soccer, as a stepping stone into life.
Competitive sports is a great metaphor for life, right? Teamwork, sportsmanship, learning how to win and how to lose graciously, how to practice every day to get 1% better every time, right?
Yeah.
Great metaphor for life.
Yeah. And it started clicking with me. It's like, man, these are moments. These are defining moments. And you can define these moments, or these moments are going to end up defining who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be proactive and you make that choice. And so it started evolving into that. And at the time I was dating my wife, Margie, and we just talking about, hey, we should do a podcast, something together, something we've never done before. How can we collaborate? Not compromise, but collaborate. Because if you compromise, you're taking away something from each other.
Right.
But we collaborate.
Because you're both bringing your strengths to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we collaborated.
And you challenged yourself once again. You've never done one before.
That's exactly right. That's probably one of the biggest reasons.
You got to see the theme that we're talking about today, right?
Yeah. Challenge yourself. Get inside that arena that you're not familiar with. And when the going gets tough, man, just stay in it.
Right. What's the worst that could happen, right? A bad episode?
Yeah. Bad episode, microphones failure, electronics failure.
Right. It's happened to me before.
Yeah, it's happened to me multiple times.
All the time.
But now that ever since we've been in Kyle's office, that hasn't happened. So we're good.
And now we've cursed ourselves. So the camera's going to die any second now. It's okay. So how many episodes have you done of that podcast?
We're at, I think, 94.
94. Wow. You know, most podcasts only last 7 episodes. So
yeah, I saw that, by the way.
You're cruising way past that number. And you just did, was it an 8-part series?
8-part series.
On leadership, specifically leadership with your special guest, Master Chief George,
yes,
who also runs the QB Academy in Texas, right? They're in Dallas?
They're in Oklahoma City, but they do camps in Dallas.
Do camps in Dallas, right? So an 8-part series, because he was military, and so he was bringing his perspectives to an 8-part series on leadership.
Yeah.
An interesting sidebar to your normal podcast on defining moments. What I love about the Defining Moments podcast is Hoang says about 30 words the whole time, and he gets an hour worth of content out of everyone else, because he'll ask you a simple question and get people just talking and revealing themselves and tearing up and becoming emotional and everything else. And you're a great, great listener, which not all podcast hosts are. Yeah. As you guys could tell, I like to talk a little bit on my podcast. You talk very little, but you get great content out of your guest. And you sort of stay out of their way. Is that intentional, or is it just natural? It's just something that just happened?
That's really good question. That's a question I've never had anyone ask me before.
There we go.
Yeah.
He does that on his podcast. What is the question you wish someone would ask you? Or just ask it.
I like to listen, and it's intentional, because when you ask questions about someone's life, they will give you opportunity by answering, and they will more than likely will answer a lot of questions that you kind of have in your head through their storytelling, through their life.
And the whole point of a good podcast is storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. So you've done a good job of lining up great guests, myself excluded in that, that have told amazing stories on the podcast. So I'm proud of you for that, and super proud that we work together on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Our little bit of your production is always, we enjoy doing that so much.
100%.
I enjoy having you on this podcast today.
Yeah.
We talked about business. We talked about being the CEO of CMM Financial, what CMM Financial does, a lot of some tips for small business owners and for individuals to make sure that they're on the right side of that. If you guys want more information, go to, what's the website for CMM?
So cmmfinancialservices.com, and the StormCheck business is stormcheck.team. And real quick on that is, you alluded to, we only get into it once or twice a year. And when we go out to these storm shelters, that's exactly right, because we found snakes, live and dead. We found a big rat the palm of my hand, lots of frogs. So we go in there, we sanitize it, we'll clean it out, make sure there's your steps aren't broken, because a lot of them are
that
wood.
Can be dangerous,
right? And then a lot of them are metal, so we make sure that they're not
rusted out.
We make sure your latches work properly, right? We make sure that your storm shelter the lat longs are accurate with the city state wherever you live in. And then we provide 6 bottles of water, first aid kit, and then we'll have a package with whistles and earplugs and a small flashlight. Then we install a motion censored LED light that's it's battery operated.
So that last part is my favorite part. The fact that you add the supplies and lighting, and it's all about safety. And I feel like it's not just cleaning it up. Just like, sure, no one wants to go clean it out after it's been sitting, right? But you guys go that extra step, and I think obviously I'm sure people appreciate it. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of repeat business off of that as well.
Yeah. It's like a good feeling because you want to go above and beyond, because you should have a moral obligation, a moral drive to give that to your clients, your friends, your guests, whomever that might be. So, and the podcast is deafmomentspod.com.
All of that will be listed in the show notes below, of course, as well, because we are fans of all of those entities. That's why we wanted to have this conversation with you on the podcast today. And congratulations on making this move. Congratulations on your new job.
I appreciate it.
Can't wait to see how I've already seen the efforts. The social media is blowing up over there. You're really making some good moves. So that's very impressed. And looking forward to seeing what comes next from Hoang Lam, CMM Financial, StormCheck, and the Defining Moments podcast. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow the Golden Group on social media. For more information, past episodes, or to contact us, please visit thegoldengroup.com.